This video is brought to you in part by Del Monte Corn. I see you in blue, I see you in yellow, but only you red will do for this fellow. You are the apples to my Costello, and you are the fruit to my loom.
So right now what I'm doing is I'm boring out the new crown brasses for the axle diameters. Basically started out just a 9-inch chunk of bronze, and through various steps we're now at one of the final stages of getting its final bore.
You have R.D. Pierce coming to you live from inside the Firebox. So, our condemning number for the side sheets here is 337. What does that mean? That means it's that thin, got to be cut out and replaced. So as you can see, I already cut one corner out. Kind of check out things and see how it was all going. And the mud ring was really dirty, so I had them wash the mud ring out. So what we're probably gonna end up doing is, you see here, you got a really bad pit. And this is where the flexible staples start. And down here on the bottom of the front tube sheet, it's looking pretty good, but it's getting down into that 3/8 number. And this over here, you see we're down in the 200s in the corners. So what we're probably gonna end up doing is coming up to about here and just cutting for 3 rows up stay bolts, cutting all that out. But back over here in the back, you see here, there's a whole ungodly shitload of pad welding going on where the sheet was getting thin. So back in the day, they just slammed some weld at it and try to thicken it back up, because you know, at one point in time, welding was a magical thing. So that is what we're looking at doing. If you look down here in the mud ring too, the lower part of the sheet is it's just toast. It's ugly, icky, nasty looking. The rivet heads are all pretty well gone. You can see here, now you got 329, 322, 319, 331, 330, and then we got back up to being pretty thick here. So, because we want to get a lot of long-term use out of this damn thing, instead of just going and putting a corner patch and a corner patch and a corner patch and a corner patch, we're just gonna go 1, 2, 3, where the sheet's still flat, and replace everything underneath. Yep. Sounds like a plan to me. Holy Jesus Christ! wipeout.
Yeah. That hurts. On your hand, Calvin.
Yep. I have been in there suffering through the fiery gates of hell so that y'all can go for steam train rides. Alright, come here, I'll show you my bit. So inside the firebox, our condemning number on thickness of the sheet was 337. And there were 4 places where we were below that number. And only in the corners it wasn't very much. So if you look at these pieces I've already cut out, those numbers are far and above 337. So if you get down in there and you look at it, you see that the rivet heads are all in pretty bad shape, and the sheet itself at the mud ring is in pretty bad shape. Even though the thickness is above our condemning numbers, we want to run the locomotive for another 20 or 30 years without having to do this again. So we don't want to go into our next 1472 having to do a bunch of firebox patches again. So basically what we are doing is we're taking a measurement up to right about here, and we are going along the inside of the firebox, and we're cutting everything below that line out. And putting a brand new sheet in, brand new corners in, tying it all in together so that the whole bottom part of the firebox, which is usually the worst spot, is in good shape. But then what that does too is it allows us to see the inside of the wrapper sheet, the outside sheet here. So we can ascertain whether there's pitting along the inside of the mud ring there, which will really give us a, do we need to cut this out? And put a flush patch in on the outside. So that's what I'm doing in there. And then cutting the stay bolts off from the sheet, and then going through and cutting the sheet off and letting it fall. And I do that all the way around the inside of it the next couple of days.
Little Debbie, we need you.